morning, everybody. This is your Wednesday wrap-up. Thanks for joining us on a Tuesday morning, or if you're watching on Roku, it's still on Wednesday. So, how are you doing,
You're
gentlemen?
just all confused now.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody.
What day is it?
How are you guys doing?
Good, man.
I'm good, man. Trying to
Got
figure
the
my
show?
days out myself, so I'm good.
Yep. Yeah, so, we were talking a little bit yesterday about the officiating changes, and I wanted to get in a little bit more on that just because I wasn't clear on Mr. U having an issue with a Sky Judge. I wasn't quite getting it, so I just wanted to follow up. And, of course, if you are watching this, be sure to tune in for that Monday thing we do. So that you can see some more of the content.
That Monday thing.
Yes, I like it, man. I'm sorry, but I like that. I think it's a good name.
If it's on his
something you
channel,
gotta
it's
talk about?
Mr. U the podcast. If it's on my channel, it's called Hanging with Mr. U.
There you go.
I mean, I can't change all these graphics and stuff and put I can't do all of that stuff. Oh, you want to do that? You want to change it to that Monday thing? I'm down for whatever you guys like. Man. I don't know if Rodg tried to submarine we've been doing, but I mean, I'm open to change, man.
Yeah. Oh, the best part about it is the person who tried to change it isn't even on the show.
I mean, the audacity, right? At least show up for stuff.
That was hilarious. Hilarious.
Crazy,
Sorry,
man.
I loved it though. Yeah.
It's crazy. That Monday thing.
Good stuff. So yeah, no, I was curious, like why don't you like the idea of adding a ref that has a different vantage point, I should say?
Well, for starters, I didn't know there was going to be a referee. The report doesn't really read like that. The one that I read, it made it sound as though it was just a kind of an eye in the sky type of situation. And no.
Oh, did you think it was going to be AI? I mean, if we can't get that for,
almost like a drone kind of situation. That's what I thought it would be, something like that, like an additional drone, something like that. The report was really unclear in that regard. I'm not against, being able to get those stats like you were talking about yesterday. I think I just feel like, if you got to add all these layers to it, you need to see some sizable change. That's part of my government background and project management and whatnot. You don't add extra layers and whatnot, and you don't see any results because you waste some time and productivity. So officiating was a problem last year. People were complaining about it a lot. I think if you're going to get into it, there's some other reasons why it's a really big problem, more than just a Sky Judge and all the additional layers. There's some issues with veteran officials leaving and a lack of communication. I'm hearing that a lot from reports from GMs, and saying year to year the consistency is down, training is bad, or it's not as comprehensive as it could be. Those are the real problems, I just kind of feel like if you don't solve that stuff, you can have all the Sky Judges and all the technology you want, but it's something that you got to get right, and it got to be consistent across the board. They have 17 different official teams, and it's like they all do something different, and we see it every week, and it's like it frustrates us as football fans. We're like, wait a minute, like you mentioned yesterday, you mentioned about Kadarius Toney. Everybody's making a joke about it, but the truth of the matter is that was happening the entire game.
No,
nobody wasn't paying no attention until that moment, which is like it begs the question: how did you see it then, but you didn't see it all the other time? Then why is this time more important than all the rest of them? So it was just a lot of things that we got a problem with officiating wise. I ain't got to be for the Sky Judge. I'm like, just get it right more times than not. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna add all these layers, at least get it right. We should at least see some kind of changes. And I felt like 2023 was a really down year in officiating. Not because of technology so much, but because of...
You can definitely make a case for having the full-time referees, right? So that
it's necessary.
In-depth training. I mean, it's not like the league doesn't have the money for it. So, a company that somehow is a nonprofit but makes, billions a year.
It's weird, man. Accountability is not really an issue. I don't use that word in this case because what I didn't realize is that they fire these guys after 1 or 2 years and they're not productive. productive. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
We don't in the local newspaper, so we don't know that's happening. But that's happening pretty routine. It's actually a thing. So accountability is there. We don't see them get fired. We don't get to cheer them out and and have them do the walk of shame. They don't get that kind of opportunity with this. But they are getting fired after 1 or 2 years if they're not productive. So accountability is there. It's just the communication part of what I'm hearing. Teams don't know who to talk to. There's like a lack of competent leadership. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there beyond technology. That's a problem that they got to fix. The full-time part is one thing across the board. Everybody is saying it needs to happen. You got to do full-time so they can be committed to the work at hand, not bouncing between their other jobs and treating it like a side hobby. That kind of attitude is not helping us, causing us to see a bad product officiating wise on the field.
I mean, so the thing that's funny about that though is we've had good officiating. It's not like the officiating was always bad, right? Like we've had good officiating, and they were doing it with the current scheme, right? Where they still had full-time jobs, and I forget which one it was, had like an active law practice and stuff. So I mean, like there's it's almost like the newer ones aren't taking it as seriously, or I mean, because it's not like there's a lot more rule changes than there used to be. They change rules every year, right? Like there's always been rule changes. So I mean, there's some sort of disconnect versus the old guys and the new guys.
No doubt. My wife didn't even watch football that much, nowhere near where I'm watching football at. She can walk into the room and see the officiating crew and know which ones are the veterans.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
How does she know that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Those games you're talking about that were well officiated, guaranteed that this wasn't first and second year guys. I guarantee if you go back and try to find it, those are the vets. Those are the guys that the Ed Hockley, the guys that knew what they were doing. You know what I'm saying? Whether they're part-time or not, they've been there for a while in that capacity. They're veterans in that capacity, in that field of work. So they know what they were doing, and you can see it on the field. These other guys, there's one guy, I don't remember his name. I talked about him on a show maybe about a couple of months ago. It might have been a relative of Ed Hockley. He's known for what we don't want in officiating. He was horrible.
Oh, yeah, that's his kid, Sean Hockley.
It might have been. I'm so sorry, Mr. Hockley, but
Sean and it was funny because like I always loved Ed, right? Like first he had cannons for arms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even as a 70-year-old man, he's outrunning half of the players to get down and call a touchdown.
You gotta love that.
It was hilarious.
Sean was trash though. Consistently,
yeah, I mean,
he wasn't wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing, seeing the wrong stuff. It was just bad, and everybody knew it. I'm like that kind of stuff is like that's what makes it bad for everybody. But come down to training again and communication, and I guess.
Well, I mean, I guess if there's anything we can say on that front is, maybe it'll get better over time, right? Because we don't know what Ed looked like when he first started, right? Like it might have been bad, but I wasn't around when he started reffing.
Here's the question to think about though. In all of the scenario, veteran officials are leaving. My question is, why are they leaving? Because in the scenario you're talking about, over time means what? That in 10 years, the guys that we think are trash right now will be better. All the veterans will be leaving. So these guys will be, it's like they just be moving on out, and we have the same cycle again of bad officiating for however long, how many years it is, and until the new guys get better, and then the vets leave. You need to keep them veterans in there as long as possible. Why they leave? That's what I want to know.
They kind of did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think he froze on you right there. I think with some of your young guys, they probably have trouble adjusting to the speed that they're moving up to from whatever league they were in. And so that kind of talks to you about your development and your training too as well. I just don't think they're prepared, as much as the veterans who kind of like, look, I can't keep up necessarily with these guys, but I know my positions and my angles to get into better versus younger guy who's maybe jumped up from, high school ranks, college ranks. You get in there and all of a sudden you realize like this game is fast, like I've got to be better positioned. I think that's a lot of the times the bad calls you see is not like just willful. Hey, I'm just trying to make a bad call. It's like I'm not in the correct position to see what I was supposed to see. So now I've blown, a major call because of that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that's one of the things we were talking about was the training issue. I mean, they don't have if you look at Dean Blandino, he talks about that a lot. He was saying that the training is an issue. Comprehensive across the board, it's not consistent, and I don't know if everybody doesn't have the same information or just not enough information for all the officials teams to kind of work in unity with each other. So definitely a problem there, man. But I think they have it on the radar, so they should be touching on it. I mean, again, I don't want the vets to leave, unless it's like a great reason for it. I want them to leave. A vet can be somebody who's been there for 5 years.
Right.
You want that person leaving because they bring something to the table that the new person, the 1 year, 2 year person doesn't have. Right. So it's like, man, you don't want to lose them. So they ain't gonna stay there for 30 years. I ain't saying that, but I mean, a 5 year, 10 year person, their knowledge is invaluable, man. They see stuff that may not be seen very often. They can be an asset in those rooms. So I want to see them leave. So that's kind of where I'm looking at that.
Yeah. And it's interesting, I think, to go along with your original point, I think what they've decided, like, instead of better trading for them, we're just going to make more eyes out there, and see. I think the problem is now, there's less, I think, especially with replay too, there's less pressure to get the call right the first time versus like, let me just make a call that I know can be fixed, So you see that a lot. Now, and a lot of times we're okay with it. Like, all right, we're just going to call it a fumble on the field because somebody else will watch my back. But you start to wonder in other instances, is it like, somebody else will catch that or somebody else will fix that? You know what I mean? When you start adding all these extra layers. And I think that's something that's happened.
Do you remember a time when that happened? Like an instance of that? Because
the fumble one
doesn't sound good.
Yeah, well, the fumble one is the biggest one. You can tell a lot of times, even if they don't think it's a fumble, they let it go as a fumble because they're like, it'll get fixed. If I blow the play dead, they can't fix it. But if I don't blow the play dead, it's a fumble. Like even the, like the Christian McCaffrey one, they weren't 100% sure. We knew, that's a fumble, right? But stuff like that, they definitely let go to go. And none jump off but I'm sure if I look back real quick, you'll see several where that's the biggest play that they like, well, somebody else will fix it,
Is just the veterans or just the new guys we were talking about?
I feel like it's everybody at this point because, I'm not as versed in NFL like, crews as I want, Doing the show with you guys, I've gotten way more. I probably got more NFL knowledge doing the show with you guys than I have the whole other time I've been watching. So it's like something I'll definitely chart. Yeah, I've always been more of a college guy, So it's like now it's like, okay, I'm paying more attention to NFL and stats. But it's one thing I've noticed for sure, fumbles into the end zone. They're definitely let that go. Mo is back.
I'm trying to learn more college from you, man. So I'm trying to get more well-versed in that too. So you helped me out with the college, man, for sure. All right, but yeah.
So always fun when the router just decides, we're just not going to play anymore. Had to go and unplug it and plug it back in. At least it was while we were live.
Yeah,
because it's more fun that way.
Yeah,
right.
It's all good.
I see you got a 20-minute build up before the show. No, we'll wait.
Right. Like, podcasting is fun. Things are live and everything's working. It's cool. And then the router's like, oh, you're live now? Cool. No.
Podcasting is fun.
It is. Also stressful at times.
I feel you. It's fun.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
But all right. So let's get to a couple of these comments here. My mom checking in.
Hey, Mom. Good morning.
Border.
Road.
Rodg. And of course, all right, we got Jeremy, and he was talking a little bit about some of the guys, worst refs in the league, and so I don't know where you guys
can't stand right there. But that's the guy Wanda can't stand right there. Clete Blakeman. She sees him and she's like, "Oh, he in there?" How she know that? That's not good.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's the problem.
She's as new as you can get to this. She don't sit here and watch these games with me. She see that guy on the screen and know what's going to happen. She can predict the future. Yeah. She see him on the field, like, he gonna mess up. And you know what? He does every time.
Yeah.
Well, at least
you're at a point where the refs are now part of your scouting report when you're going to watch a game, and you're like, these are the things you can get away with a little bit more, and this is how you. I know in the NBA it's a thing for sure. you know if it's going to be a faster, slower, or more physical game based on your ref. So,
well, yeah, you can also know if Chris Paul is on your team. There's just one guy that's going to make sure you lose.
yes, and Chris will be lucky to finish the game. So yeah,
Can't imagine how you feel when you see the guy. Can't imagine how you feel when he sees him out there on the court.
I don't even know how that's a thing or how that's been allowed to be a thing this long. So that's crazy.
Oh man, yeah, it's weird.
And I think some of these guys forget that we're there for the players. We're not there for the referees. You know, the less we see and hear of you, the better.
Even if it was a thing, like, man, I clearly am going to have a rough day over here. Man. So it looks like y'all are going to do some heavy lifting today because I apparently am not going to be on this podcast at all.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? We got your back, man.
Yeah, we got your back, man. We'll pull up this stuff in
your family, man. We'll figure it out.
He said another cup of coffee. Let me.
Man, yeah, I needed something else in here besides coffee at this point. Need one of those Irish coffees with some Jameson and some.
Yeah. That's why my bar card is within reach. So if it gets really bad, it's right there. So yeah,
just tapping out.
Yeah.
Zero adulting happening today.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I don't know how that has continued to go on in the NBA for, I forget that ref's name offhand, but I mean, the fact that it is a consistent thing. And I mean, he'll toss Chris Paul for nothing, right? Like he'll be tapping in, give someone a high five, be like,
Scott
oh,
Foster. Yeah. Scott Foster.
Yes, there we go. Scott Foster.
Yeah. I don't get it.
Well, and even like knowing it's a thing, why keep scheduling him for those games? Right. Like there's enough reps.
Your entertainment value.
There's enough reps and there's enough games. So, and it's like the NBA is trying to say, we don't think it's a thing. I mean, it is. The record shows there are certain things you can't argue, Hey, you're 0-3 against that ref. Okay. Small sample size. All right. You're 1-14 with this ref. Oh, okay. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, come on.
Right? There's something
eyes on the product.
Yeah. Especially since all the leagues are like over the top analytics, numbers driven. It's like, oh, here's some numbers. No, we don't want it. We don't care about numbers. Not for this thing.
3-17 in playoff games, ref by him. And that's playoff games. That's significantly more important than your regular season. 3-17, you just can't say it's not a thing. Like that's impossible.
Yeah, like that is a weird coincidence.
Yes.
If it is, right? Like that is all of a sudden those numbers are a little too big. Yeah. Like if it was 1-3, sure, you'd be like, because it was probably the same series.
Right.
But
3-17 means every game across every if Alabama is 3-17 at LSU, we're like, okay, they just can't play there. That's terrible. Like they're just terrible at on the road, whatever, right? Yep. We attribute that in every other instance except this. It doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah, no. That's why I say like every one of these leagues is so analytics driven, except when it's something like this, and they're like, oh, what are you talking about? Numbers are weird.
Right. Right. We don't want to change for that reason.
Somebody's getting paid for sure.
Yeah. 3-17, small sample size.
Team that Chris Paul's on.
Man. Well, I mean, I guess we'll bounce around a little bit. So sticking with the NBA, Doc Rivers starting out 5-7 with the Bucks after Adrian Griffin goes 30-13. Now, I've never been a big Doc Rivers fan. I think the ring that he got was kind of gifted to him, just because there's enough talent on that team. I don't think he actually had to show up. But
well, it's more criminal that they only won one with that team being put together. So,
agreed.
And then, like the second time they get to the finals, Kendrick Perkins get hurt, and that's kind of like we couldn't win. Like that's your reason for not winning with 3 Hall of Famers on the same team, and Perkins gets hurt. And you can't seal the deal. It makes no sense. So
it's not Blake's fault.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not on him. It's on me. It's on me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, he's blown the most 3-1 leads in NBA history too, as well. Like he's just
oh gosh, that's a bad record.
Yeah, he's just the guy that can take a talented team to the playoffs, which almost anybody could do, and not get you over the hump. That's what I think of, And like I said, I root for the Bucks as far as me, and I was a Dame fan until this year, until I realized he was just going to play zero defense and not. I'm expecting if you play zero defense, I need 30 points a night from you. So if I'm not getting that, it's just not working out. But when they fired Adrian Griffin, I was like, huh?
You need more than that. Are you kidding? If you're playing no defense, that means that score is going to be 135 to 127. Like he's going to have to put up 45.
Yeah, but see, I'm setting my sights low because it's been so bad. Like I'm just trying to get you to 30. I'm trying to drag you along to 30. But baby steps, baby steps. So when they fired Griffin, I wasn't surprised because it's they have championship aspirations. But I'm also surprised that some of these teams that have the championship aspirations and then bring in a new coach. Lakers with Darvin Ham is the same thing. Like you want somebody to get you to the top who's just starting out and getting their feet wet, and that didn't make sense either. But I never thought Doc Rivers was the answer.
Well, I mean, even if you think the guy's a jerk, 30-13 is tough to move on from, right? Like if you got the team producing wins the way they were, right? I mean, it was like Harbaugh with the Niners, right? Everybody knows that he is abrasive, right? That's the diplomatic way to say it. But when they were winning, they were willing to deal with it. And then as soon as he wasn't winning, they're like, yeah, got to go. But in this case, 30-13, I mean, how do you move on from that? Especially to then turn around and go get Doc Rivers, and he starts like 1-4 or something, and he's still 5-7. So I mean, he's below 500 with a team that was like a 700 plus win percentage.
Right,
man. I mean, that's tough to wrap your head around. I mean, Adrian Griffin had to have been the biggest douche ever to get that kind of like, you got to get out of here. We understand that you are absolutely killing it, but yeah, we'd rather lose. I don't know. It just seems seems weird.
Yeah. When I think, and I want to say Stotts, but I forget the assistant coach that he fired in the middle or stormed out in the middle of the year. I think that had something to do with it and his attitude, losing a valuable member of your staff. But no, I mean, I agree. Like, it doesn't make sense. Your record since doesn't make sense. I'm listening to a Bucks podcast, and they're like, what's our worst case scenario now that we're in the 3 and we're not sure if we can catch the 2? Fall into the 4 seed, where you have to play the 5th seeded 76ers, who may or may not get Joel Embiid. And if you win that, you get a next round, second round date with the Celtics, who you're trying to avoid as long as possible. So you're in danger zone now with Doc Rivers. And, you started off the break losing to the Memphis Grizzlies, who have 4 maybe regular players and 3 guys they literally grabbed, before the game to come out and start. So none of it makes sense. I never thought Doc was the answer. And as fast as they hired him means they were thinking about this for a while. Like, you did due diligence and Doc Rivers is what you came up with. Don't get it.
I think that part of this, I didn't know about the personality issues with Griffin. What I did know was that their defense is 22nd in the league, and I feel like that was a big part of that, especially for a former world champion. That probably didn't go over very well. I mean, so when they brought Rivers in,
they got rid of their defense.
Yeah, they traded defense for offense.
Yeah, so I mean, your defense was gonna get worse,
right? But your offense has to get that exponentially better. That's my point about it.
So you think them guys playing those games and having those kind of defensive showings, you think that didn't impact his ability to stay in that job? Somebody's gonna get blamed for that. Who are they gonna blame for it?
Yeah. So and one thing I did read about that was they didn't like the coverages he was playing in a lot of those games and utilizing it. So there were some scheme things as well that the players didn't get along with. But I still go back to your stars. Stars got to be stars. You make an offense for defense trade, Lillard's got to be great. If you're going to do terrible defense, the offense has to be spectacular. So I think it still goes back to, your main guys. I think in a lot of the team, and that probably helps Doc Rivers, I think coaching is probably the most overrated in the NBA. At some point, you've got your guy on the team on the field. He's playing offense and defense. Like, I need you to perform while you're out there, and I think that's just part of it. So,
agreed. Yeah, I mean, the fact that nobody plays defense anymore is frustrating anyway.
Right.
I mean, I feel like there's this whole other part of the game that you're supposed to play. It was an actual, thing at one point.
Yep.
But I mean, that's part of the league just being, Charmin soft. Like it's like you look at a guy wrong and it's a tech, and and then you ask the ref, why was that a tech? Oh, second tech. See you later. You're like, wait a minute. Like I was just asking you a question. How am I not in the game anymore?
Right.
So, yeah, no, it's I mean, there's just a lot of weird with the NBA at this point. But their ratings keep going up. So I mean, I guess it works.
Yeah.
It
offense sells. So like I love offense. I'll never complain about that part, but they have and it's funny, I think I want to say it's JJ Redick's podcast where he was like, where are the offense advantages? Like, look at all the stuff they don't have. I'm like, hand checking in the physical play is evaporating. So don't say that the offense doesn't have advantages anymore. I think people just forget what a simple hand check would do to somebody coming down the court. So
it messes the rhythm up altogether.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
that's why I always laugh when they're like, oh, the shooting percentage is way up. It's like, well, yeah, because you can't get near them.
Yeah. Yep. We've made almost everything a foul.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had to make them kicking you in the air not a foul anymore. Because Harden was the best at that.
Yep.
He would do that like leg kick forward as he shot.
Yep.
And you're just like, and then he'd draw the foul somehow, get a 4-point play. You're like,
yep.
That feels cheap to me.
Yep.
Like, so I mean,
also, and to expand on that point, also the jumping left or right when I'm shooting versus just jumping straight up and shooting. So they had to eliminate that part as well. So that's a lot of what they've had over the years is offense had all the advantages. So, which makes the Damian Lillard thing even more frustrating. Like if I go out and see you shoot great in the All-Star game, I need that all year. And I'm sorry, I know that's my soapbox, but I'll never forget that because I need better from you. So your coach got fired. I need better.
You're not wrong, right? It's not like you're gassed because you're playing defense because you don't do that.
Right. So
like we'll see you, like we can see you sometimes just walking down the court. Like you're not even trying to stop the next play.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's cool. It'll come back to me. Like,
right. Well, when it does, I need you to start knocking some stuff down. So.
Oh man. All right. So okay. So let's get back to football a little bit. So there's a bunch of players not going to go, compete in the combine, and if you're a top 5 player, it kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. I mean, that's like one of those. The only thing that can happen is your draft stock goes down,
right?
Like if you're a top 5, if you're slated to go top 5. Actually participating probably doesn't do anything for you. If you're the number 1 and you go out and you perform, they're gonna be like, yeah, you were the number 1. But if anything happens, it can hurt your draft stock. Now, if you're the 3rd quarterback, you absolutely go throw, right? Like you want to make an impression so that you stay in that spot, or you can, try and climb a little bit, right? Because if you're the 3rd quarterback or the 4th quarterback, you may, I mean, this year you'll be in the 1st round, but that's not always true. So I don't really have a problem with them. I've seen a lot of the reports that they talk down about these kids not going out for the combine if they're in those spots. But I mean, that's like when Alabama plays, a terrible school. It's like, yeah, unless you beat the brakes off them, it's bad for your record. Right. So, I kind of feel the same way about these top level kids. There's no reason to go compete in this.
Yep. Did you want to go first? Yeah.
That's fine. I mean, this is off the top. I'll just say I agree with this, with them not being a part of this. I mean, honestly, being a sports fan my entire life, I'm talking about baseball, basketball, man, first love, man, especially baseball. I can't watch no All-Star game right now. I can't watch the NFL All-Star game. I can't watch the NBA All-Star game. It's an exhibition, and this isn't really a lot different. This may even be whatever it is to be worse than exhibition. That's probably what this is. Whatever that, however you describe that. I mean, it's almost a waste of time. It really is. This is the game of leverage, though, and most of these players, in reality, especially the rookies, in fact, NFL players as a whole, they rarely have any kind of real leverage. Only reason why this combine thing is even happening, it's not for them to get stats, because you already have all of that stuff from video and stats, like you talked about yesterday. Stats are all over the place. Advanced analytics, it's already there for you. It's been there for the entire college player's career. I mean, you can get some high school stats if you dig deep enough. You can get all the information you want. This is just for the organizations. This is just for the league to have more eyes and money coming in that the rookies have no part in. They don't get a cut of that whatsoever. And it's like there's no real point to it. You talk about the top 5 guys. I ain't sure that this helpful to really anybody, unless they're really really low on the scale. It's like, they're like borderline and just barely making it in. They might need the combine to show some stuff that they haven't shown in 4 years, which is kind of weird, but
or guys that are coming off an injury, right? To
that,
show
that kind of thing. Other than that, I don't really see the point. I mean, the league is really benefiting from the combine, not the players. I mean, I don't really see the point of it. I stopped watching the combine a long time ago because there's nothing for me. I don't get anything out of it. I want to see a guy running in a straight line. That's not what happened. That's not really what happens in football the majority of the time. Sometimes you might see that on the field, depending on the coverage and and where a guy gets open with the ball and play and stuff. But that's very rare, man. Guys are in action. It's more valuable. Even the Rams coach Sean McVay, he's a big proponent of not being a part of the combine for that very reason. He gets more from live action, from the video, from the analytics than he does from anything they do in these so-called competitions. I don't put my time into it. I'm glad people are not being involved. I think a lot of coaches are kind of following suit. I know there's 4 that come to mind right now that are not being involved. So I know Robert Sala's not doing it. McCarthy for the Cowboys not doing it.
Right.
McVay's not doing it. And I think Matt LaFleur's not doing it. Those are names that I did hear.
Seattle's not going either.
Yeah, and I think San Fran's guy's thinking about not doing it also. So he probably follows. There could be 6 coaches that are not getting involved with this. So I'm like, that tell you that should send a message to you that this is not as important as you want us to believe it is.
Right. And it's weird that you would go and say, I've got this whole 3 years of evidence, or maybe you only play 2, whatever, and I've got all this and I've got all your game tape, but I want to come and see you throw out in half pads and shorts and to a receiver we've picked that's wide open. It's just weird that we're going to ignore all the evidence and go, this is what I like. And I think that's where you get stuff like, Jamarcus Russell can throw the ball 50 yards. Yeah, did he do anything else for you, or no? You fell in love with that part, stuff like that. So, but once the coaches start skipping the combine, like, how are you selling to the kids anymore? And I think you're going to see way more of I'll just do my stuff at my pro day. Since you don't get to pick the environment, now I get to pick the environment. I get to pick who I'm throwing to or who's throwing to me or whatever. So I feel more comfortable. So, which I don't know what that proves either. Hey, the guy that I work out with every day is going to come out and throw me passes today. Like, I hope you look great, catching that and throwing that. Yeah. So I don't get what any of it proves at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're looking for, I was just going to say, if you were looking for some technical growth, right, as far as route running or something like that, or you were looking for specific mechanics from your quarterback, I could see some of that. But you don't have to send your head coach out there anyway. You send one of your scouts, right?
Right.
And you collect some videos and analyze that. But I mean, I can't imagine, like, a lot of these teams not going. You would imagine that their draft boards are relatively set with the people they're interested in.
Right.
And I can't imagine that your, combine or pro day is really going to have much sway to it. Right. If you were a player that has good potential but didn't get a lot of playing time, say you sat behind, a guy that went in the draft the same year you did, and you didn't use the transfer portal, right? The combine might be useful for that, where they're like, okay, we just want to see a couple of live reps here, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, I always like seeing some of the 40 times and stuff, just because it's kind of cool to see, but it doesn't have any bearing on the actual game. Right. I mean, it's not like you get a free release from a 3-point stance, out on the edge. Right. And if you do get a free release, it's because it's blown coverage. It's not because you did anything special.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Raiders would always draft the fastest wide receiver instead of like the best wide receiver and wonder why this guy was getting way out there, never catching anything. I'm like, well, because he's fast. He's a sprinter, not a wide receiver. You drafted him based on his 40 time and ignored all of the tape that you saw. So
yeah. Just one final thought on this from me. Yesterday I'll talk about the NIL. It really just stirred some stuff in me. And I know that people get on football players, talk about you should be doing this, you should be doing that. We paying your bills, we paying your salary. Dumb stuff that fans say. You know what I'm saying, but these guys put their literal lives on the line. I know that we look at somebody else's money and how they should spend it, and we advising GMs on how to spend money. But the reality is that these people are putting their lives on the line every day, going out here, and the organization makes exponentially way more than what they're giving out.
Oh yeah.
And you kind of just said that rookies are pawns in a lot of ways, man. And these guys, they get cut. Veterans get cut. They've given their whole lives to organization to get cut in favor of a rookie because it's cheaper. You know what I'm saying they're just pawns in a lot of this stuff. And so anytime you get some leverage, like in this case, I'm always down for go ahead and get that leverage because it could be the last time you get any. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, this is about money, and these guys are saying, you know what? We ain't playing that game. I mean, there's something that I can't control, but there's something that I can control. Marvin Harrison Jr. said, I'm staying on Ohio State, and I'm gonna practice over there. I'm not coming out here to be a part of this spectacle. I respect that, man.
Yeah. I do too, especially for Harrison, because you're like, look, I'm the first wide receiver coming off the board, and the first couple of people were drafting quarterbacks. Like, I'm in the top 5. What am I? I don't have anything to gain. They're not drafting me number 1. Like, that's not, I'm not going up one or two, possibly even 3. So what's the point of sitting here? And I like this comment. I think that's the the medicals and the interviews, because I'm sure the Bears would love to sit down with Caleb Williams, ask him some questions. Like, hey man, what's the deal? I would think that.
Yeah, there were some things during the season that you were just like, don't love that. So yeah, I mean, you could see them wanting to sit with them, and of course, the medical thing is probably the biggest thing for me. Is if you were hurt in your final year of college and you're coming out, like I want to be able to see that you can move around. Right. Because I don't want to draft a guy that's like, oh, you know what? That knee injury was actually career ending. So who knew? So I mean, there is some of that for sure. And I agree with that too, making sure the speed looks as fast as it does on film. I mean, that's that definitely has some truth to it, especially if they were coming from a smaller school that, potentially got beat up a lot.
Right.
Right. So you want to make sure.
But I think kind of to Mr. U's point, I think that's more of the people you should see at the combine is those kind of guys,
Well, and that's those mid-level guys, right? Like those are those guys that I think can actually affect their draft stock by going and showing out, right? Like if they have a great combine or a great pro day, like just last season, right? You had Anthony Richardson, right? Like they were saying, second round at best, right? But he had a huge pro day, right? Like his pro day was monstrous for him. So, I mean, it can definitely help. It can definitely help, but it's only going to help those mid-level guys.
Yeah. The only top guy, and I hope this does it, but the only top guy I could see maybe being helped, I would JJ McCarthy throwing more. I just don't think he was allowed to throw a whole lot at Michigan. And I think the throws he made when he needed to make them were great. And I think people would like to see more of that from him. So I think him, especially kind of being in like that second group of quarterbacks right after those top 3. So I think that's a guy. I think
the combine will be helpful for Penix and for JJ. Those two guys, I think, can utilize this platform a lot because obviously with Penix, it's, does he still look as good after the season? Right. Because he's been hurt every other year. You want to make sure that, hey, after the season, he still looks the part. Right. And then with JJ, to your point, he just wasn't asked to throw that much.
Right.
So at that point, you kind of want to see a few more reps. You want to see him hit some receivers that he doesn't know, because the first people that he's going to throw to are ones he doesn't know. So I mean, there's definitely some of those guys, but again, those are guys that, you know, are going to be later first round, you know, mid to late first round, potentially second round, depending on how teams go. I know there's a lot of offensive tackles that are in this draft. I think there was 8 or 9 of them slated for the first round. So, I mean, it's, you know, you could see one or two of these quarterbacks slide a little bit if some of these teams come out and they're like, you know, we really need to fill this hole, or, you know, something like that. Or you got a team that's moving off a receiver because they don't want to pay him. There are some good receivers in this draft. So, I mean, you could see, you know, some of these guys needing this platform to help solidify their position as well. But yeah, any of those top 5 guys, absolute waste of time.
Yeah. Agreed. Good.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he had another point to jump in. So yeah, no, I agree. And I even read, I think Harrison's not even going to do much at his pro day either. So I think he's like, you know what, you've seen what you need to see. So
yeah, I didn't even think he was going to it.
He's not.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to the pro day at all.
Yeah, he's not.
No, I meant like his own personal. Yeah, like he wasn't, not even just the combine. Like, yeah, the Ohio State one, like he's not even doing anything, period. So yeah, no, I didn't realize that till this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I didn't think he was going to it at all.
Yeah. So that's he's like, look, you see what I can do, right? You know where you're drafting me. The Cardinals are not letting me go past 4, so yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, you know who his dad is, so you know in an interview he's going to be fine too, right? Yeah. Like he has a pro that's like, hey, these are the things you're going to want to say.
Right.
So it's not like you have a kid that hasn't been around professional players and stuff that, you know, could go out there and say some really dumb stuff on camera, because there's always a couple of those every year. And, you know, so that's where those interviews come in handy. Like, hey, we need to teach you how to talk in front of a camera.
Right.
Oh, man. So, yeah, so also on the NFL, we got a lot of running backs that aren't getting tagged. And some of it makes sense because they were tagged once before, right? So all of a sudden that tag becomes a little more expensive than what it is they want to do. But it's interesting because the league is just really hating on running backs, right? Over the last couple of seasons, it's amazing how they just don't want to pay this position at all.
Yeah. It's I think you're just in a spot where you can like start to replace that position for cheap. And then the guys you're talking about didn't significantly impact the win total this past year. You know, was that all their fault? No, they were on some bad teams. So you can't really blame them. But if I look at my record and I think it was terrible, now I got to pay you, or I'll find a guy in the 4th or 5th round and throw him out there with whoever I got. Maybe I'll get 2 of those kind of guys. I mean, that's what you're going to go with. Pay the rookies for 3 or 4 years and then recycle. So I can see why the teams are not bringing back those particular running backs, but it sucks. For the players.
A lot of those teams aren't like a running back away.
Right.
It's not like, hey, let's make a splash play on this position because that's what we need. Right. And of course, you know, I might as well ask, what do you think Saquon ends up coming back, or do you think they move on?
This is one of those tough questions. It seems really hard to kind of discern what's going on with this. Not just him, but there's a couple of other guys that are in this that I'm like, I don't know what to make out of where they are in their careers and the value that they have. I mean, I think my guys like AJ Dillon and Gus Edwards, these guys in short spots, they've done some really good things, but it's like they're going to be on the street having to basically test the market and show their worth. There's times where I kind of felt like, Broccoli, you okay, brother? Everything all right? I mean, sometimes I have some questions about some things that I saw that, I thought was opportunities for him that he didn't take advantage of. And then there's some times where anything was going to happen and he would just explode. And it's really an up and down situation going on with him particularly. Me personally, I think part of me wants to, I can't say what how much the percentage is, but I kind of want him to stay.
Right.
But I don't know if it's going to happen. I think that if the O-line is better, I think he has more of a chance. Nobody's perfect. These guys, these Giants fans, not me, but people like that, are wanting him to do something explosive in every single play. It's not what happens in it. It's not reality in the NFL. Every time Josh Jacobs touches the ball, he's got to go off and do something amazing every time Jacobs touches the ball. That's not how that works.
Right.
There could be times you're going to run into a wall and live for another down. That happens. I'm saying, I just, just some things that I saw from him that I didn't like. That's some of the fumbling, just little things. I'm like, wow. I don't know if it's mental or what, but part of me wants him to stay because I want him to be a part of what I believe we're building. At the same time, it's like you said, we're not a running back away. I think we got about 6 needs we need to cover through the draft and free agency. And I think if we do that, we'll be in a better spot. So that's kind of with or without him. If we're talking about overpaying him past the $12 million tag, I'm like, I don't know. Because I almost feel like this is just me now. Giants fans will consider this blasphemy. But I say what I want to say. And I deal with the backlash later on. But I kind of feel like some things he has to prove.
All right.
This is just to me. I ain't nobody, but I thought he had to prove some things to me for me to say, you know what? Long-term future, 4 or 5 year deal. I need him to prove some stuff to me. And I know it's hard with an O-line issue that you have, but I need to see something because ever since Penn State, I didn't see it yet. Like you said, being on the field, being available, that kind of thing. Ball security. I mean, people get balls knocked out. It happens all the time, but I need to see something else. I know he has breakaway speed. He can. I know that about him, but I think I want to see it on a consistent basis because there have been times where, and I've been on the record, I ain't changing my mind. Nothing changing my mind. I feel like we could have been an 8-9, maybe even a 10-win season this year with the scrubs that we had on that team and a hot mess that we had going on, hot garbage, flaming hot garbage. We still could have won 10 games this season. And he was part of the reason why we didn't, because of something that we didn't see from the running game. So I like him to stay, but if he goes, we'll essentially start from scratch unless they bring somebody else in. I don't know who that's going to be. I mean, hey, I love Eckler. I've always been a big fan of him. Go ahead and bring him in. He's durable. He pushes yards up, and he's only 29.
Yep.
I mean, so there's options out there. I mean, Gus Edwards, the bust, he's been phenomenal. I don't know how the Ravens will even think about letting him out of the building. I don't know why. That doesn't make sense in my brain, but I'm like, okay.
I think it's the cap issue.
Yeah.
Figure it out because I don't know if Dobbins. I mean, I haven't even seen Dobbins that much this year for obvious reasons, but I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
Edwards, man, it's like that guy's been reliable, man. You better not let him out that building. I feel the same way about AJ Dillon too. Don't let that man leave out that building.
Yeah,
I think the team, especially with the way. No, sorry, especially with the way the running backs are devalued. I just think a lot of these teams are going to 3rd and 4th round draft somebody and just make it work. I just think you're going to see a lot more of that. Like we're not talking about a single one, right, for the first round this year. And last year we were talking about one, and we were kind of so shocked by Gibbs getting in there, right? And I know that worked out, but that's also a perfect situation he kind of went to. I just don't like. There's probably no running back getting drafted first round this year, right? Maybe some are sneaking to the second, but you're looking like 3rd or 4th round. I can get a guy who was pretty productive in college. I can have him for 4 years on the cheap, and then I can deal with it then. So
who's the number one guy? I don't even know. I can't name him. And
I looked at the names.
Really good with this.
Yeah,
I have no
I
idea.
didn't follow running backs enough to like recognize because I think it was the guy from Texas was the first
Travion or something like that.
Yeah, so but none of them are like I said, none of them have first round grade. So
this is rough.
I mean, I think the first one. I think the first one that I saw on some of these projections were like late 2nd round as the highest I've saw one.
Sorry, Jonathan Brooks from Texas is ranked as number 1. So. I mean, that's on a random draft board, but it's like, where do you even hear him going? Nowhere soon.
And what? That's a late 2nd, to mid 3rd, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
So the same person who ranked him number 1 has him as the 50th best prospect. So what does that already tell you?
Yeah. So that's mid 2nd round.
Right. Yep. So.
I mean, Blake Corum got elite running skills, man. I guess the total package when it comes to running and receiving, and he ain't going in the 1st round.
Right.
So it's like, at least I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I don't think a running back's going first round. And like I said, last year we were only thinking one at this point. So
This is
that was
crazy.
Bijan. So I didn't think I loved Gibbs. I didn't think Gibbs had any shot at first round, and it's not because of skill set. It's now if you get a running back that can catch the ball, yeah, that's obviously going to move you up more. But other than that, yeah, they're just devalued. So I think a lot of these, like, I don't think any of those, the main three that you just Jacobs, Henry, and Barkley, I wouldn't be surprised if none of them are back to their. Well, I know Henry's not going back to the Titans. That doesn't even make sense. So
no, that's already a done deal. Like,
right. I think Pollard is out too for sure. I think he's out from the Cowboys.
You think Pollard is? Yeah. So I was listening. I keep mentioning other stuff. I was listening to stuff about them. They weren't 100%. The guys talking about it, not anybody associated with the team.
Oh, sure.
They weren't sure what.
So the Cowboys are definitely going to have to move on because even with the increase in the salary cap, they're still like $20 million over the cap.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, like they mismanaged some funds. They went all in and thought they were going to do something. And
well, they did something.
They did. They sure did.
Let's talk about something they did.
They wasted a lot of money.
Yeah, they wasted our time too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I wasn't a waste of time. That was a fun time. I enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's. I mean, even with this salary cap increase, there's quite a few teams that have some very real cap issues.
Right.
And I mean that Dallas team is going to look very different next year.
Yeah.
Especially if they have to pay. What's that?
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
We've heard about the undervaluing of running backs. It's not the first time, right? Can we own that part? It's not the first time we heard this.
It's been a trend.
It's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Does this feel different to you this time than in times past? It feels different. Like
it feels like these guys may not be in the league next year.
What? Okay. Explain.
Unless they're going to work for incredibly cheap.
Wow. It just feels different. I hope it's not bad. That's messed up. These guys got talent. I mean, these ain't no bums now.
Right.
No,
even Henry and all of his injuries and whatnot. Henry's still a monster out there, man.
Yeah.
No
but
doubt.
You have to, now the situation you're putting Henry in is like, I don't want you to necessarily be my lead back, but I want you to work alongside somebody else I have, so you're more of my bruiser with some breakaway speed. Maybe I got a quick guy to go along with it, but I can't pay you, $12 million or whatever to not be my lead guy. So I think that's where the discount, or that's where the scale comes in it.
I mean, but think about it this way, right? Like you had a guy like Chubb last year who wasn't on a team until Hunt got hurt, right?
Gotcha.
So, I mean, like you think of Chubb, you're not thinking this dude.
You got that backwards, or are you thinking?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Chubb. Sorry.
Chubb was the man out there.
Yeah, backwards. But I mean,
okay.
When you think about it, like,
right.
It's not like he was a scrub. He should have been on a team, and instead he doesn't get picked up until there was an injury. Right. So this is another scenario where these guys are older.
Yeah. Especially Henry's got a lot of miles on him. There's different, running back miles are different than, just every other player miles. So, yeah,
no doubt.
I get you.
So, I mean, it's you
I take 4 of these guys over. I take 4 of these guys over Hunt any day.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I'm biased towards Jacobs and Henry, right? So I'm with them, but I also understand, the market and how this might play out. And, especially like Henry's never been much of a pass catcher at all. Like, that kind of hurts your positional value,
He can sure throw that jump pass, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
might move him back to quarterback.
That's the deal with Henry, right? Is he's not super versatile in that way. He's just a monster of a human. Right. So it's hard to tackle him. But he's a little bit older, has some hard miles as far as a running back. So you got to worry about injuries moving forward. Yeah. Saquon, you always have to worry about injuries, right? Pollard, I think Pollard will end up somewhere, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird landscape because they keep undervaluing them and wanting to pay them less. You're having guys getting a little bit older where injuries become a question mark. Then yeah, you start looking at 3rd and 4th round guys to fill that gap.
Yep.
Because the guys that could use them aren't a running back away, and the guys that are a running back away are finding ways around it anyway.
Yep.
This definitely feels different than in times past. I don't know what's getting ready to happen, but hope they figure this out.
I mean, realistically, your prototype for a running back at this point is CMC, right? Like you got to have that hybrid back that is as effective in the pass game as he is as a runner.
Right. And that's what, like, to a lesser extent, that's what Gibbs kind of was coming out, and then it's Bijan as well.
Yeah.
So what'd you have, like? So after the first two in the first round last year, the next one wasn't drafted. Picked 52 in the second round for the Seahawks, Charbonnet, and then Keandre Miller for the Saints, round 3. So like even it's even spreading out. Tennessee got their running back, in the third round, pick 81. So Spears. So people are just waiting and saying we'll just grab whoever we have at that point and roll with it. So
what's crazy is the way that you're looking at running backs getting paid at this point. They're not really going to make more than the veteran minimums. The way they keep undervaluing the position, like you're going to actually start having a hard time finding people to want to play running back.
That's what I think. Like if I had a kid right now, and first off, I wouldn't want him to play football, but if he did, I'd be like, that's the worst position on the field, for your future. Yeah. The problem is it's so attractive in high school. High school running back is like a star. You love that guy. Oh man, great.
Yeah.
Nobody
it gets
compares.
worse. Yeah.
He blows his knee out. Then what?
Yeah.
What you gonna play then? Ball boy? I mean, this is scary, man. This feels like it's close to being catastrophic.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong.
The running back in the NFL is look to Jim Brown and then start looking forward. They are important.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Well, I know the injuries happen because they can get hurt. They got the ball. They wide out there in the open field.
Yep.
Stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? But they're still important, man. It's like.
Well, ask the Ravens and ask the 49ers about not using your running backs correctly and ask them how that works out. So, yeah, they're super important. It's just we devalue them so we don't think about them at the right times. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah, this is not looking
well,
good.
And you are seeing, like Travis's point here, you are seeing more running back by committee, which is, it's something the Seahawks are doing, right? They went second rounders 2 years in a row. Right. And they just alternate running backs back there. And, when the offensive line is healthy, it's effective. If the offensive line isn't healthy, nobody moves the ball.
Right. Or your coaching staff, like with Bijan Robinson, why draft a first rounder, not use him? But hey, whatever, I
mean, that was bizarre. How do you forget you have that kid on your roster? Like that, that made absolutely no sense to me. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I didn't get that. I was surprised he didn't get fired earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Like really the first two games in a row where he didn't have Bijan in the mix, you're just like, yeah, so maybe you're not our guy. Like,
like we drafted him, right? Or you weren't paying attention that night. Oh, okay. You skipped the draft. Well, then now that makes sense.
Yeah. You're fired. Yeah.
Exactly. Right on, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in on this Tuesday for our Wednesday wrap up. Let everybody know how they can find you.
They call me Mr. U on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and of course on our YouTube channel. They call me Mr. U.
Rodg Herb is the Twitter handle, and Herb Rodg Podcast. You can find us on YouTube. Find all our videos, follow our podcasts.
Right on. Thanks again for tuning in. If you're watching on Roku, be sure to stay for the next hour. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week.